introduce yourself and proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Chair Toombs. My name is Ashley Batchelder. I'm the Interim Executive Director of Metro Arts. Thank you for your patience as we worked on our technology. To my left here, I have Capri Harston, who is our Finance and Operations Administrator. And I just want to recognize we have several arts commissioners with us as well, Commissioners Lefkowitz, West, Yu, Hardin, and we also have our Public Information Officer, Darius Barati. So we've got many folks from our team here today. And I prepared about a 15-minute presentation to share with you all. And so at Metro Arts, we of course believe that the arts drive a more vibrant and equitable community, and we believe that all Nashvillians should have access to a creative life. Our mission is especially vital right now. We know that the arts and culture building is essential to human connection and community flourishing during challenging times when so many artists, organizations, community members, and really all of us are navigating times of uncertainty. So I do want to start by thanking all of you. We are grateful that the city values this work, and what I prepared are some updates in our public art and our grant programs. And so I will start with public art. We finished and dedicated 2 new public artworks this year. The first is shown here and is titled "They Fought with Words, Leaders, Lawyers, and Educators," and this is a permanent mural on the Luby Community Center. Metro Arts commissioned Creative Girls Rock and lead artist Elishaba Israel Morozic for this mural that is inspired by Z. Alexander Luby's life and legacy. The mural is 20 by 95 feet and is just really, truly stunning. Our newest artwork is called Wings of Time in the recently reopened Old Hickory Community Center. Artist Gordon Huther created 17 suspended life-size great blue heron sculptures that are inspired by community feedback about the natural beauty of the area and values of community self-determination. This is District 11's first public artwork, which we're quite proud of. And so I really encourage you to make time to go see these new artworks if you have not already. We do have a number of projects in progress that we are anticipating completing in FY27. The first is a visual representation here titled "Be as Water" by artist Alex Braden. In partnership with NDOT and TDOT, this public art lighting installation was driven by residents' experiences and interest in slowing traffic down, creating safe streets, and bringing lighting to the Arthur Ave Interstate underpass. Next is an artwork at Strobel House in partnership with MDHA. Artist Omari Booker did extensive engagements with unhoused residents and other community members, and the resulting artwork is a series of sculptures, including caterpillars and butterflies that symbolize metamorphosis and transformation. And finally, in partnership with Juvenile Court, we are working on 2 projects that will bring intentional trauma-informed art to the new Nashville Youth Campus for Empowerment. Artist William Massey will create a wall-mounted sculpture in the lobby entrance that will be a very prominent centerpiece to all who enter the front doors. And this will be accompanied by 20 wall-hung artworks by local artists that will be placed around public areas in the building. So as these projects come to completion and installation, you will receive invitations for all of the dedications that we have planned throughout the year. And I want to make sure to thank our public art team, our public art committee, our many partners, and the community members who have served on selection panels that really bring these ideas and artworks to life. Next, I will move on to grants, and I am going to update you about our current FY26 grant cycle and tell you a little bit about what to expect in FY27. And so many of you are probably aware, but about 3.5 years ago, Metro Arts made significant reforms to our grants toward our equity goals. In that time since, our total number of grantees has more than doubled. And as you know, Metro Arts has also navigated significant operational challenges in those years. Everything that we have done in this last year has been about centering trust, relationships, and transparent information sharing as we've navigated the challenges. And so our focus has been in these following areas: building internal structure, process, and capacity. This has been very critical as we determine the best ways to process, administer, and really serve the growing volume of grantees that are in our program now. We've focused on administering grant cycles and dispersing funds. At this time last year, some of the biggest complaints were about a funding cycle that was nearly a year behind schedule. Those delays not only impacted one cycle, but actually had impacts across 4 fiscal year cycles. And so this year we have been working to get back on a reliable and predictable fiscal year schedule. And this is very important to organizations and artists who need this information in order to plan their work. And finally, a priority has been to increase department communications and opportunities for public engagement throughout all of our work. So we have made considerable progress toward these goals, guided by a clear need and the recommendations that were outlined in our recent audit. We created standard operating procedures and policies for all steps of the grant process. We've built our staff capacity. We have a new grants manager, and we are currently in the interview process for a grant coordinator, which is a new position that we have developed in our org chart to meet this need. Our most recent funding cycle has exceeded equity goals that were previously set by the commission. We've worked diligently to make up on lost time that I mentioned. In the last 17 months, we have closed out 3 grant cycles and launched 3 cycles, all on overlapping timelines. And this upcoming FY27 year should be the last one that is off the ideal fiscal year timeline. And finally, our current grant cycle is one of the most transparent and hands-on ones that Metro Arts has had in years. And so I'm incredibly proud of the progress that we've made, and I definitely want to thank our grants team members, our finance team members, our engagement team members, our grants committee, and all of the community members that have worked with us and supported us through this year as well. And so we have 2 primary grant programs, our operating support and our Thrive project grants. Operating grants support the general operations of arts-focused nonprofits. These grants use a threshold scoring, meaning that applicants that score 70% or higher will receive funding. They do not request a specific amount of funding in their application, but rather the commission determines the grant amount based on our available funding and our budget size categories. And Thrive is our project funding that is available for artist-led, community-based projects. Applicants who seek a Thrive grant request up to $15,000 for specific projects, and those that are selected for funding do receive their full requested amount. The way that we determine this funding is that all applications are rank ordered and funding is dispersed until it is depleted. And so this cycle, we have 79 operating grantees and 86 Thrive grantees. All of our grants are scored by community panelists, and I'm going to end by telling you some ways that you can support us in that effort. And throughout this cycle, we have offered weekly drop-in sessions, community input meetings, one-on-one grant clinics, report back sessions after award decisions. We've done mid-cycle check-in meetings with all of our grantees, and we hold celebrations at the end of the grant period, among other activities. I have a couple of slides here that show grant funds as distributed across council districts. This first one here shows the council district of our current operating grantees. This is based on grantee reported data on organization's main address. And so when you are looking at this, keep in mind that these are arts-specific organizations. If you don't see your district represented, my first question is there an arts organization in your district? You see the greatest amount shown here is in District 19, where we do have 13 arts organizations that range in size and type of work. This shows the distribution for Thrive grants, and what this shows is the applicant's council district in red. This is where many of our individual artists receive their project grants. So the applicant district is shown in red, plus the primary location of the funded project in yellow. So what stands out here is the flow of project dollars into District 21, which we know there is such a rich arts and cultural corridors and areas in District 1 there. And what I'll underscore about both of these is that this is the distribution of funded applications. We had applications from all but one council district. These were the ones that were funded. That one council district that we had no applications from last year is District 31. So Councilman Rutherford, I'm gonna get with you about that for sure. And this slide shows the distribution of total grant funds over the last 5 fiscal years. You see the bump in FY24 that is reflective of the one-time funding that the council allocated at that time. The red colors on here represent our operating grant dollars, and they're segmented by size categories as shown at the top of the image. The yellow represents Thrive grants and Thrive dollars. And so what you see here is an increase in Thrive allocations over time, particularly in the last 2 cycles. And you see that that increase has come primarily by reducing funding to organizations in the large and mid-sized categories. So on Friday of last week, we launched applications for our FY27 cycle, thanks to the council's approval of our grant criteria at your last meeting. And what I show here is a general timeline and overview from the applications to the closeout of this cycle. Throughout this, we have built in new support features this year around topics like fiscal sponsorship, and we have made various changes that improve our process for things like panel reviews and other administrative elements throughout the cycle. We anticipate making award decisions on August 19th this year, and that means that grantees can expect to receive funding in October. Here I have a short 2-minute video that I would like to share, and I'm going to navigate to YouTube and pull it onto the screen.
انسترومانێکی وردەترە دەمام دەست پێ کرد عەمرێکی جوان دەم دەست پێ کرد یا ڕاستی وێ دەمێ ئەس بێژم زێدە ئەس نەتێدگەیشتم بەدەویاوێ و گرنگیاوێ لێنها تێدگەژم کو دەوێ ژە نرخێن پاشەرۆژێ بە ئێک و پای مەرە وەرن ئەم ژوارە چاندەکێ هونەرێکی بهێنن گەلێکی گرنگە بڕاستی ji ber wê yekê dev wek nasname ye ji hunerê wirdetir براستی وەک مگوتی ئەف gelek ساڵاز vî karê dikim nêz heta îro ya rastî ticarîka min piştgiriyeke aborî ji tikesî nestandiye gelek cara klasê min û dersê min polê min hemî belaş bûn ticarîka min tiştek hêvî nekir tenê daxwazam ew bû wek mîsyona xwe ez hîn bikim hîn bêhtir şagird çê bibin hîn bêhtir jin hîn bibin hîn bêhtir berfira bibe müzikjenên nû derkevin پشتری پشتگیری مترو آرتی براستی از گلکی کیف خوش بود و گلکی سپاسیالات کم جبر کو ام گهشتنا هین ملاتین بیانی ام گهشتنا هین کسین دین کسین کو ام وقت ناس ناکن مکاری بون پولی خو برفرحتر بکن و هر وها حتی ایرو.
The mission of Friends Life Community is to provide opportunities to adults with developmental disabilities so that they can grow personally, develop socially, and enjoy community as they live life together. They are paving the paths for every person with a disability and changing the landscape of how everyone in Nashville sees people with disabilities. With this funding, we've been able to provide consistent classes that allow the Friends to continue to explore who they are as artists, as well as provide vital careers for artists here in Nashville. For Metro Arts to recognize that that is something that's worth investing in has made all the difference in where we've been able to sustain our program, but also be seen as credible artists in the community.
And so I think videos and stories like that can speak for themselves, but we hear things similar to this from many of the grantees that we work with, people who have never received public funding before, people who have these stories about how important this is in their lives, in their communities, and in the connections that really do so much to hold community together right now. And so I hope that this shows how vital this programming and these community funds are. The amount that is listed in your packet in our budget requests of $326,000 is a 10% increase in our grant budget. I know that it is a very difficult budget year, but we really believe in the importance of what we do and the impact that it has on people across the county. If we were to receive an increase of such and split it 50-50 between operating and Thrive, we would be able to fund 11 additional Thrive projects and direct those operating dollars into our smaller organizations to support their work even more. And that does lead me to one additional budget request that you have information in your packet about. In partnership with Juvenile Court, Metro Arts used to operate a restorative arts program that provided high-quality arts programming for system-impacted youth and their families who are at different stages of involvement with the court system. This program has been stopped for over 2 years. And so with Judge Calloway and her team, we have been exploring what unique contributions we could make by bringing a program back. And we are thinking about potential models of a teaching artist residency that could engage young people in the facility in art making process that creates art for the campus. Our budget request for this would support a participatory planning phase followed by pilot programming. And finally, we have completed work in all of the recommended areas that were identified in our 2024 internal audit, some of which I have listed on the screen here. We're happy to answer any questions or elaborate on these details if you have any questions about them. And I just want to end with a couple of invitations and quick pitches about what we have going on at Metro Arts. I mentioned already our grant applications are open. The final deadline for that is June 26th. I will be sending all of you information. But another very critical hands-on way that community members can be part of this process is by being a grant panelist. Community members read, score, evaluate all of the applications that come in, and it is a way that you can make a real impact on the arts community. There's more information that's available on our website, and you have it in your email from me as well. And I'll also say that this is a paid opportunity. And finally, please save the date and expect to receive an invitation for June 15th. That's a Monday evening. That is when we will be doing the celebration of all of our current grantees. So we have 165 grantees. We're bringing everyone under one roof together to celebrate the work that's been accomplished. Thanks to Metro Arts Funds, thanks to you all for that. There'll be performances, family activities, and a really great way that we're going to end the year here. And so that is what I have prepared for you, and we are happy to answer any of your questions.
Vice Chair Spain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. First, I just want to commend you and your team. As you alluded to, there was a fair amount of chaos around this commission not all that long ago, and you really seem to have righted the ship and brought some much needed stability and predictability to these programs, so thank you for that. Just a couple of specific questions on your budget. The $35,700 for an additional review panel, why is that a one-time need rather than a recurring one?
Yes, so that's a one-time use because I mentioned that we had fallen so far behind in typical activities that should be occurring each fiscal year. And so in FY 25, we did not do any review panels. We were that far behind. And so in the work that we've done to catch up, it's FY 27, where we have a panel planned in July and a panel planned in May. And that should typically never happen, where we do that twice in 1 year. But it's because we've caught up from when it didn't happen, and because we pay panelist stipends. You know, there's a cost to putting it on. So that was why it was a one-time request and not ongoing.
Got it, thanks. And then you talked some about the court-involved youth redesign and relaunch, the $85,000. I'm not sure what I want to ask here. I guess, why is a redesign necessary, and why not re-implement the program that existed prior to the most recent 2 years?
Yeah, it's really based on conversations that we've had with staff at Juvenile Court about what a unique contribution could be right now. So Metro Arts was not, the only organization providing support for art programming through Juvenile Court and those partners there. And so in the conversations that we've had, it's been, there's, plans to move into a new facility, and what is something new that we could bring to that. And so the program that we used to run before, it used to be grants to nonprofits to run programming that would, fit the mission and values and the goals there. But we're really talking about exploring something that's quite different now, maybe looking at an artist residency type of program, a teaching artist that would actually engage young people in making art that could then become part of the building. And I'll say, just in case it might cause any confusion, I mentioned our artwork that's planned for the public access areas of the facility. That's our public art. But this would actually be creating artwork that is in the private spaces where the public doesn't have access to, where there's some of the temporary housing and the meeting rooms and other spaces where there's not as much of a robust plan for art, but it's equally as important there. So that's kind of the context through where this new idea came from.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any additional, there we go, Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the stability. I will echo that. I see it, there's a spot in here for public art manager. Does that role include maintenance of the existing public art?
Yes, so that's, maintenance is part of our responsibilities in maintaining our public art collection. That's on the staffing side, that's handled from our collections manager, but every new artwork that we have, has a maintenance plan with it, and we handle that through typically our 4% requests that are included in our budget. So we have a maintenance schedule and things that we are checking in on our artworks. Is that kind of?
Excellent. No, that's okay. Exactly right, because for a while there wasn't much attention to that, and some much loved art was looking pretty loved.
Yes, you can always let us know if you see something before we see it too.
Okay, no, that's great. I appreciate that. And then I think I had one other question. So, and you mentioned this public art, and that's funded by the 1% for art, which is a 1% from real estate transfer or something. What is that 1% of?
Capital bonds on.
When capital bonds are done.
Of Metro.
So we have an ongoing dedicated funding source that ensures that we will continue to be able to provide new art in every district, hopefully.
Yes.
Great. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Councilwoman Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the graphs with the different council districts. That was super interesting. And the only thing that came to mind as I was looking at those was thinking through like applications versus like where the art that was funded ended up being. That would be kind of an interesting thing to learn about and maybe in future presentations. And then can you remind me, because I know I've heard the answer, but I can't remember it off the top of my head, on mural artists, how come they are, I guess, excluded, I think, from Thrive? Is that the grant that they're excluded from?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, there was an unexpected increase in people seeking support to do murals through the Thrive program. And the Thrive grant is really not created to support that. And so when you're doing murals, when you're doing public art, there's additional considerations compared to, a more programming-based proposal. And so with public art, we as Metro Arts, typically when we're doing public art, we would approve the design. We would ensure that there's a plan in place for maintenance. We would ensure that there's a plan in place for, temporarily or permanently altering whatever location a mural is being added to. At times that can require insurance. At times it can just become much more complex, I think. And so the Thrive grant is really not built for that. And because it has so many intersections with our public art process, it really can't live in our grant program right now. We have, at commission meetings, we have talked about our interest in starting a potential mural program, because the specific details that go into that really need a program in itself to ensure that all of those processes are in place, because the review of mural proposals is quite different than, again, like what art programming would be. So that's kind of the big picture reason why it's not included in Thrive right now.
Thank you. I could not remember the reason, because like the first example that you showed with Z. Alexander Luby, that was like, that would have been a public art program?
Yeah, so that's through the percent fund. And so
got
that
it,
has
okay.
a project manager that, you know, works with the installers for it, that is ensuring that the polytab, which is the technical material, is going to last for 10 years or more. That's ensuring that there's permission. Of course, that's a Metro facility, right? So that has its own process. But just all of those things that the Thrive program is really not built to evaluate and assess and ensure that the project will be successful and have the permissions in place.
That makes sense. And then the last question that I had, you know, kind of talking about the public art process, because I haven't gotten to see the new Old Hickory Community Center yet, I've just seen the pictures and everything. And so I think it was, I guess I understand that that piece of art was pretty expensive, and I guess that's kind of normal for public art and things that are designed to be like there for a long time versus like a short-term kind of project. And so do we give consideration, or how does it work with, I guess, out-of-state artists versus like local ones? And like, do we weigh local or in-state artists like more heavily when we're looking at like those large-scale installations, you know,
So-
that come with a higher cost?
Yeah, a lot of it, you know, will depend what it is that we're seeking to do. So when we're putting together, if it's a call for qualifications or if it's a call for proposal, and we're looking at the timelines and we're looking at what, you know, because we do these in partnership with other Metro departments, right? So that collaborative process about what is it that we're looking for. So that's going to put together the details for the proposal. The call for proposal. Our public art contracts are all inclusive, and so you know, if the budget is $200,000, for example, that's an all-inclusive fee that the artist will manage, right? So public art involves and requires oftentimes, you know, engineering. When we're thinking about, you know, wall-mounted sculptures or suspended sculptures and other considerations. And so, you know, public art is really, you know, you're a contractor of kinds because you have so many people that are involved in it. And so those budgets come from, you know, scoping out based on similar projects in other places, cost of materials, cost of professional services that go into doing a project like that. And so while we are doing the call for proposals, it will specify if it's a national call or it'll specify if it's a local one. And what I will say is that for every public art project, it is, the artists are selected by our community panels. And so it's community members from Nashville, you know, local community members who ultimately, you know, guided by a rubric and under the procurement process are ultimately selecting the artist for the process, right? And so, yeah, it's, you know, we have a mix of out of town and local ones. And that's pretty common for public art. You see that everywhere. I mean, we want our local artists to have opportunities elsewhere as well. We know that that's important just for exchange of ideas, you know, across cities, across programs. And so it's pretty typical in public art as well.
Any additional questions? Councilmember Harrell.
I'm looking at the budget on page 374. For all other expenses for that particular category, what all is comprised in that group? I see that's your largest item in regards to your expenses.
Flipping to that page now.
It is $3,543,000.
Does that include our grant budget right here? The 3,543,000, is that what the
Yes,
number is?
ma'am.
I'll let Capri take that one.
So that right there, that cost right there does include our grant budget, which is a pass-through amount. It's 3.2 million, yeah.
And that's pretty much solely, that's just grants?
Yes, so that's what funds our Thrive and operating grants.
Any additional questions? Well, thank you, Director, so much for your time. And we will move on to our next budget hearing,
Thank you
which
all.
is Central Business Improvement District. Come on down. Down, Tim.